sure where, but we're coming out of it, and we're so glad. But you know what? Some of us have been here holding the high watch, and we didn't deviate for a second. I didn't for a moment think that divine order, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, meant any harm for me. I knew without a doubt that there was a place here for me, and catching some old virus was not part of my future. And I knew that. It's just exactly the same answer I gave a few years ago when someone asked me, was I going to pack up and go away for the storm that was coming in. As a matter of fact, maybe we should have for this last one. It turned out it was a Category 3, but we stayed for it. But I said no. I thought for a moment, and I said, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've got a job to do right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And I know that divine order is taking place, and I can't do my job if I'm homeless and living out of a suitcase. So I know that for me, this is a knowledge that I have, that there's always going to be a divine answer on the way. Why is that? I don't know. What is divine order, and why can't everybody live in divine order all the time? Well, I hope I'll shed a little bit of light on that this morning. But as a friend of mine said, I've been listening to the Eagles. Now I don't know if I should take it easy or take it to the limit. Just not sure. Maybe I'll take it to the limit one more time. Then I'll take it easy. What about you? One might say divine timing might come into there to play too. But it can be confusing, can't it? Even our own messages that we give here. Well, is it divine chaos or is it divine order? How do we accomplish that? How do we find guidance? How do I find the discernment to know whether I should take it easy or take it to the limit? What is divine order? Well, sometimes, especially in New Thought, we can wave a magic wand, or we can just say a few words, and it's all in divine order. Well, that doesn't help, does it? If someone's just lost their child, if someone's just lost their home, if someone's just gotten a frightening diagnosis, sometimes that's just a bit of escapism, and we don't want to claim that either, because we do live in a real world where hurricanes happen, accidents happen, illnesses occur. A lot of things do occur, and we don't want to just wave it off and say without feeling, oh, it's all in divine order. It's all in divine order, it'll be okay. Well, we are going to claim that. We are going to claim divine order. As a matter of fact, I'm claiming it today because every month, at the beginning of the month, I'll write on my calendar what the daily word is going to be for that particular Sunday. And for some reason, I had written divine order for today. And then when I actually saw the slides that Bobby provided for us, and the daily word wasn't divine order, and I said, okay, well, I've prepared a talk, and I've done it mostly in my mind so far, but I'm going with that because it must be the divine plan for me to talk about divine order today. So here it is. So actually, we don't want to sound like some that stand up on a pulpit too and just say, well, God's calling all the shots, and it's in divine order, and as if there's a deity up there using us as puppets. There's a grand puppeteer. Well, that's not the way it is either. When we came to this earth, we came with a divine purpose. Each one of us did. And then we fall into forgetfulness. And at some point, different times, different ages, we wake up. We start waking up. A lot of people wake up at mid-age after they have had a career and they've raised their children. And then it is time to wake up and start waking up to, what is my true path? What are my gifts? What should I give to the world? And so we start waking up, and there's where I'm talking about divine purpose. But there's not a puppeteer up there pulling the strings. It's up to us. We have a choice. Do I trust in the divine plan? Do I trust in the divine enough to turn my life over to the divine? When I get up in the morning, do I have a checklist? And those are good too, don't get me wrong. But am I so structured in my own order that I can't deviate from that plan at all? Or am I willing to turn my will over to God's will and say, whatever the divine needs from me today is what I'll do. Here's what I have planned, but if something else comes up, I will consider that my orders directly from God, directly from headquarters. And sometimes chaos can be part of the divine plan, divine order, because as we are changing and evolving, and trust me, we've evolved. We've all evolved. Humanity has evolved. As we are evolving, sometimes we do it a little step at a time, but change can cause a lot of confusion, can't it? Letting go, change. I may be ready to change before you are. And so there you have a little chaos and conflict. And so that can be part of our divine order as well. But here is the thing, there isn't a God sitting up there directing all this, and there wasn't a divine plan. What if we're creating that divine plan? Right here on earth, we're creating it. And it might be diviner than it might have been if we choose our own light and purpose and choose to live that lovingly every single day. Every single day, I'm going to choose to make a difference in the world. So we're going to make a choice for divine order. We're going to choose God's will over our will, because sometimes our will is too embedded in thoughts and programming and training from the past. All of us grew up in a family with all sorts of mixed messages, didn't we? All sorts of mixed messages. And we can't blame them because they grew up in families with mixed messages as well. And so what we can do, though, is to heal that. And as a thought comes up, it arises that's not a healthy thought. What we choose to do with that is to look at it. Let me look at that for a moment. Let me question that thought. Is that true? Is that true? And that can give you a lot of discernment and insight and wisdom. If you just take that one practice and question your thoughts. Because we're entrenched deeply into that patterning from the past. Excuse me. So what we want to do is to trust in the divine, trust in God's will. We could do nothing better than to say, I will remain open. I will remain open. I will remain open today to God's will. I've spoken before about a book written by a woman named Tosha Silver. She wrote a book called Outrageous Openness, and I don't know how many of you have read it. I've spoken about some, I've quoted her a few times. But how can we have outrageous openness to divine love? She talks about it in that book. The entire book is filled with examples and how we can go from fear to trusting in the divine in every single instance. We can move from fear to faith and trust. She talks of a time years ago when she was struggling with everything in her life, finances, health, clarity. She'd been disabled for a few years, couldn't work, didn't know what she was going to do with her life. Her life was a total wreck. I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but she was. She said she would have glimpses of something positive and lovely, but most of the time she was just sitting on her front porch wondering how she could replace the lattice and make her fence and her yard look better. When lo and behold, she's sitting there one day and a truck goes by that's hauling some supplies to someone in the neighbor, and a couple of pieces of lattice fall off the truck right beside her yard. Well, she tried to flag the guy down, couldn't find the neighbor wherever it was going to be delivered to, so she was doing the right thing by trying to find its rightful owner, and then after a day or two realized that she was the rightful owner. She had prayed for that, not knowing it was a prayer, but when she was sitting there bemoaning her life and having a glimpse of something beautiful, like a garden or a yard that looked a little bit better than the one that was so forlorn, she actually had created that. As the scripture says, ask and it is given. Well, she was given a couple of pieces of lattice. And so she got busy, made her yard look better. The next thing you know, she felt better physically. One day at a time, she came out of her depression. Her illness improved, and she started getting better. And as these thoughts came, she started writing them down. Her life got better and better and better. And the title of the book, Outrageous Openness, tells it all. She said that she was just totally open to what God would bring in her life, or spirit, or whatever name it is that you prefer to call the divine. And she began to trust the divine in all things. She knew a couple who were selling their house, and they had it on the market, had a contract. It came up the day before closing, and carpenter ants were discovered in one wall of the house, totally covered that one wall. Well, the closing, of course, was canceled, and then they got it all repaired and decided to stay there. They decided they loved the house. As a matter of fact, they decided that one of the reasons that they had decided to sell the house had gone away during this time that they were repairing their house. Another way that divine order takes place. She had another friend that she and her husband were going through a painful divorce. They were both good people. They were New Thought people. They were people that were open and loving. But when it came to these decisions about their belongings and who would have custody of their child, their only child, it became divisive, and they were at their wits' end to see how to make this a peaceful ending. So the woman called her friend Tosha Silver, and they talked about it. She said, "How can I go into this discussion with ease and grace and love?" She gave her the advice. She said, "The first thing you need to do is to invite the divine into this and allow order to take place. One of the things you need to recognize, it's not your money. Nothing belongs to you. And if you'll look at it from that perspective, you will see that we're not taking it with us, are we? We're not taking it with us. You think about how we argue and struggle, have challenges over, oh, this is mine, and I don't want you to have it. Two people that have loved each other for years come into that much conflict. So what she advised her to do was just to say right now, well, this doesn't really belong to me. This belongs to the universe. I have custody of it for the moment, and I'm going to use it with as much wisdom and discernment as I'm able. But this man that I've loved all these years, the father of my child, I want to love him now. I want to love him through this process so that we can come out on the other side proud of ourselves, so that our daughter can be proud of us. I pray divine order over this. So sometimes we simply need to ask, what would divine order look like here? Maybe we just need to pray when we're coming into some challenges. Change me into someone who can surrender this to divine will without grasping or defending. Maybe I just need to surrender what I think is right here for what is the ultimate right. So there is only one life. It is perfect, whole, and complete. We are part of that. One woman said she was a Buddhist and a teacher, and when she heard that, she said, "Okay, if there's only one life, whose arthritis is this anyway?" I find I've been asking myself that a lot lately. But we do live in a material world, and the truth is, we are each an individual expression of the one divine light. We have come here to let our little light or big light shine wherever we are, and as we become enlightened, we enlighten the path for others. Can you see that? Now let's go back just a moment to divine order. How do I know if divine order is working in my life? Well, if I can be at peace of heart and mind, most of the time, I would say that I am living divine will instead of my will. If I'm living a life where there is one challenge right after another and they're difficult, and I keep blaming them on the universe, well, guess what? The universe is giving you a message that your life is your responsibility, and you need to stand up and take responsibility for that life. And the sooner you do that, the sooner your life will get better. Yes, indeed, there are many challenges we go through, and many of them we don't feel joyful at the time, do we? And of course, as a good friend, we have compassion for our friends when we see them going through dark times because we've been there too. And we pray for that. So one of the things I want to do, and I choose to do to find divine order in my life, is that I want to lead here with a servant's heart. And I hope I do. I hope I keep my ego out of it too. I've often said that my husband and I, we always, no matter what we do, we have the intention of ending up in a smaller home, and we still end up in a home that's big. He said, it's my big aura and his big ego. And I accept that, and he does too. But you know what? For several decades, we've merged those two together, and we've done some pretty great things. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate him. So how do we do that? How do we turn our lives over to God? How do we do that? Well, what I do myself is what I can advise you of. I allow the week to go by and inform me of what I need to say on Sunday and what the message is that I need to give. And I leave myself totally open to what Spirit would say to me this week. What message do I need to give? What words do I need to give to inspire? I want you to do this too. Have a heartfelt intention to be what you need to be and do what you need to do. State it clearly. Here are my goals, my aspirations. I pray this or something more aligned with Spirit, if need be. Show me how, show me when, show me where. I am yours. God, guide me in all ways. We have the right as awakened individual expressions of the divine to set our intentions for the highest good. Here I am. Here are the gifts that I have. I recognize that are mine.